And I'm calling the Groton Board of Education special meeting to order for November 7th. This evening, we're going to dig into our healthcare plan and any alternatives that might be available. So I'm going to turn this over. Lori, do you want to introduce?
You need to put that in front of you.
I know. All right, so I just want to introduce Lynn Gurnham. She's partner, is that correct?
Yes.
MDG. Managing partner. And Kelly, who also works at MDG. They're here to present on the health plan. So I'll turn it over to Lynn and Kelly. You want to introduce yourselves and take it from there? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Lynn Gurnham from MDG Benefit Solutions, managing partner there.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Santaveneer. I'm the Director of Underwriting for MDG.
So I just want to make sure I share the presentation we're going to go through. And why am I missing? I'm sorry, Lori. I'm usually pretty good at this. Found it. Sorry. Yep. Okey doke. All right. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. What we're going to do is we have a decent amount of information to review with you. What we want to discuss first is your current program, your current self-insured program, and we're going to go through what is self-insurance versus fully insurance, fully insured plans. What are the different components of your current self-funded program? And then we did put together some renewal history, what the insurance renewals have been since 2018, actually. And we'll go through that. Then we also included in this PowerPoint I'm sharing now some information on the partnership program, more numbers in this presentation. And then I do have a separate presentation that the Comptroller's office actually presents when we meet with clients. I was with them about 3 weeks ago. And they did a nice, simple job, to be honest with you, that we did this one handout here that the lady pretty much presented, and then this was their their slideshow. So I'll go through both the best I can, and then we can obviously always invite them in, too, for additional questions. So that is the information I'm going to go through. I love to present to questions, but I think there's a fair amount of information here to get through. So let us get through the beginning part of what your current self-funded program is compared to fully insured, and what the different components of the program are with risk controls in it. And then, we're more than happy to answer questions, okay? It's much more interesting that way. All right. Got it. Okie doke. So as I mentioned, we're going to go over what is self-funding. Then we're going to discuss the components of the self-funded program, and basically what your expected costs are, and then what are your maximum costs, worst case scenario. It's always good to know. Then we do have some definitions about what controls you have in place with the current self-funded program to protect you from worst case scenario, if you will. And then I would like to spend some time reviewing past renewals. We put together a legal-sized spreadsheet running through what's happened since 2018, where we had expected costs and then actual. And we've done this for the town and board, and we've included everything in here because I'm going to present the same information Tuesday to the town. Then tonight, there's a lot of information here, but one question that will probably come up that will need another meeting. But, what should you do for rainy day funds? In the insurance world, we call those reserves. So I did put one slide in here just to maybe start the conversation on reserves, but that is a longer discussion. I almost like to say, in the long run, with clients that are self-funded, it's nice to just have like road rules on what the reserves should be, because different people come and go. Some years are good, some years are bad, and sometimes just having road rules in place just gives you a guide of what to do with some decision-making, because it can be hard in a tough year. And believe it or not, it can be hard in a good year, too, because then what do you do with the excess money? Then we have, I mentioned the renewal history, and then we did do some comparison of your self-funded program versus the partnership, okay? There's a lot of different things you have to take into consideration, but we're going to try and get through it tonight. And then just for your reference, I just put what we work with the town and board on each year, what our renewal timeline is for this process. Even though you don't renew till July 1st, we start the process come Thanksgiving. I mean, that's our kickoff when we start discussing. And I'm sure Lori's already discussing her budget now. So, okay, so what is self-funding? So we put together this slide, and basically, what is the difference between self-funding versus fully insured? It's a very common question. So fully insured plan, the bar graph on the left represents a fully insured plan, where you hire an insurance company and you pay them a set premium each month based on the plan designs you have in place, based on the amount of enrollment you have in the plans. How many singles you have, how many two-person, how many family. And regardless if everyone goes to the doctor every day, and a lot of folks end up in the hospital, or no one goes to the doctor, and no one gets a prescription, you, the employer, if you're fully insured, pay the same amount of premium to that insurance company each month. And in turn, that insurance company takes on all the risk. So the question always is the insurance company charging more money than they should for the fully insured plan? And they do have to charge enough to pay their bills, pay their lights, pay their people, pay for ID cards to go out in the mail, and make some money. And also, they want to make sure there's enough in the bank if things go wrong, and they can call that margin. They have a lot of different words for it. But the bottom line is regardless of what your claims are, high or low, you're going to pay that same amount of money each month. So a lot of employers, different insurance people will tell you different numbers here. I'm conservative. So a lot of employers in my world with 300 employees or more consider self-funding. You can do it down to 25 employees, 50 employees, but with insurance, as in a lot of other things out there, the claims go up and down. And even if you have 3,000 employees and you track what happens with the claims every month, you're going to see a perfect roller coaster. It just goes up and down. That's just the nature of it. So with employers with 300 employees or more, we do like to discuss, hey, do you think the fully insured premium you're paying to the insurance company each month is too much? Do you think they're making too much profit? They have to make some money, but are they making too much? And that's when an employer wants to look at their claims and say, let's look at the numbers and see. And a lot of times they do see that the insurance company is probably making more money than they want them to. So they consider self-funding. Now, when you're self-funded, you, the employer, are the one that pays the claims. The money for the claims comes out of your bank account. So to do that, you have to, you hire a third-party administrator, okay? Groton has hired Anthem, who's also a fully insured insurance company, but they are also a third-party administrator. You folks have hired Anthem to be your third-party administrator. And what a third-party administrator does is you pay them a small fee, for real, it's not a lot of money. You pay them a fee each month based on the amount of people you have enrolled, and that's called an administrative service fee. And that is down here at the bottom of the bar graph on the right, the administrative costs, okay? You can see compared to the big picture, it's a small amount. And we negotiate the heck out of every penny on that each year, but it's a smaller amount. And what their job is to do is to say, okay, is Lynn Gurnham enrolled in this Groton Schools plan? And is Lynn Gurnham eligible for the plan? Which plan design is she in when the claim comes from the doctor or the pharmacist or the hospital? And then their job is to process the claim. They check, is Lynn eligible? Is she enrolled? Which plan is she enrolled in? Did she get her prior authorizations or follow whatever rules of the plan that are in place? And then, in addition, Groton has hired Anthem, in this instance, to also have access to their network discounts. So the Aetna, Cigna, Uniteds, Connecticares, Anthems of the world, they go out and they negotiate with the doctors and hospitals, right? And sometimes you read about it in the news and it goes a little sideways. But on average, in Connecticut, the major insurance carriers have about a 50% discount with the providers. We actually had a meeting yesterday with Anthem, and they were showing us the results, and that's actually the average for Groton usage with the providers, the discount. So you're paying an administrative service fee to have Anthem confirm who's eligible, who's enrolled, which plan is Lynn enrolled in, and then if the claim is confirmed, then Anthem takes the money out of Groton's bank account and pays it, the discounted rate, okay? So then you get to, oh boy, suppose Lynn has $1 million claim. You know, a lot's going on. What's in place to protect that $1 million isn't just taken out of our bank account? So there's stop loss, and we are going to get into that in more detail, the parameters of the different stop loss contracts. But basically, big picture, you pay a premium coincidentally to Anthem. Anthem also has, you purchase stop loss from Anthem. We shop that pretty much each year, and Anthem has been the most competitive. And it's nice when it's with the same vendor as your third-party administrator as far as cash flow. But, so anyhow, you pay a premium to them for the stop loss. In Groton stop loss right now, you have two pieces. Individual stop loss, which is $200,000 per person that's enrolled. And what that means is Groton's responsible for the first $200,000 of claims for each person that's enrolled between July and June 30th of each year. Okay? There's also aggregate stop loss in place. Well, let me make sure I said that right, with the individual stop loss. I'm looking at my notes because I'm saying way more on this slide than we said we would. I'm so bad with slides. But the individual stop loss, this is important, that if anybody that's enrolled in the Groton insurance plan has claims more than $200,000 in the plan year, July through June, Groton's responsible for the first $200,000 out of your bank account, and then the stop loss insurance company pays the claims above $200,000. Okay? Now then there's aggregate stop loss that you're paying a premium for also, and that covers claims 25% above the expected claim number. So let's just say, easy math, your expected claims are $1 million for the year, and claims come in at $1,250,000. The aggregate stop loss would cover all claims over that $1.25 million. Okay? I've been doing this 30 years. I've seen an aggregate stop loss paid out once, and we knew it was going to happen. We chose that stop loss carrier because it was the best thing for the client. The underwriter got fired. You do not have an aggregate stop loss payout. We will not be your consultant if that happens. It's just bad planning, bad math. A lot of employers, once you're self-funded for many years, don't even have aggregate stop loss. But you folks do. You have that as an extra layer of protection. It's not a lot of money when you actually look at the whole, whole picture of the plan. But it is there just as an extra layer, so you know. The biggest piece of the pie when you're self-funded is the expected claims. And this is what Kelly and I work on all year long, month by month. We look at the claims. It's the most interesting part of our job. It's the part we like the most, believe it or not. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But that's the most important piece. What are your expected claims next year? We're predicting the future. And we do that by analyzing the data month by month and using past year's history to predict the future, trend, number of enrollment, any changes. We try and be very consistent, but we spend a lot of time on that. And so the idea is, when you're self-funded, if the actual claims, expected claims, stop loss premium, and administrative costs are less than the fully insured premium, you, the employer, say, okay, I'd rather be self-funded than pay all that money to the insurance company and not see it back. And that's what Groton's been doing since we've worked with you. We were doing it a lot longer than, before when we were hired, but we've been doing this with you folks since 2018. And since then, pretty much each year, this red portion here, the expected claims, has come in less than expected. All right. So to dig into expected costs and maximum costs, you want to go over this? Look at me talking. Yes.
Is this laser, is that with or without lasering, or are you going to cover that later?
I am going to cover lasers later, but your stop-loss contracts do not have lasers. We have negotiated your stop-loss. A couple years ago, you did when Anthem changed their rules, and since then, we've negotiated your stop-loss each year to not have a laser.
That's great.
And those
Thank you very
lasers never
much.
hit, so.
That did worry us.
Oh, yeah, you need a strong
Thankfully.
stomach for a laser. It's,
Okay, so we're just gonna look at the total expected cost versus your maximum cost and what your actual exposure and risk is on your self-funded plan. So when we're talking about total expected costs, this is how your budget is set and what your budget is determined based on these numbers here. So the biggest piece of the pie, like Lynn mentioned, is the expected claims. This is about 90% of your total cost is the claim portion. So this is all your medical, pharmacy, and dental claims, up to $200,000 per individual. The second piece is your fixed costs, and that includes the administrative fee that Lynn mentioned and network access fees, and that's just for Anthem to administer the plan and to have access to the network discounts for the providers and hospitals for claims to be paid at that discounted rate. And then your stop-loss premium for both the individual stop-loss and the aggregate stop-loss. And then you also have another component called gene therapy solution. And we'll get into that a little bit more, but it's essentially another risk protection on the plan. And then as far as maximum costs, this is just the maximum exposure that Groton has on the plan. Like I mentioned before, budget is determined off of expected costs, so it's good to know your maximum cost because you are liable for it, and hopefully the reserve is set aside to cover up to the maximum cost. But maximum cost is that first $200,000 per individual for claims, plus 25% above and beyond.
25 or 125?
So it's 125% of expected claims, but anything higher than the additional 25% would be covered under that aggregate stop loss.
I know, it's tricky terminology. We insurance people say 125% of expected claims, but it's 25% above the 100%. Like when you do the math and you're thinking logically. I get it.
Yeah. So Lynn gave the example of $1 million as your expected cost, and then 1.25 million would be your maximum. So if claims came in above that 1.25 million, then the aggregate stop loss would cover that.
So in your example, that would be $50,000.
250,000.
Well, the aggregate would, okay.
Yep, it's just,
I see what you did. The gene therapy solution, that's new in this market. It's going to expand a lot in the next decade. They're, if you will, miracle solutions and therapies and for people. At the moment, the solution Anthem has covers 7 gene therapies, and if someone were to have these one of these gene therapies, sometimes these cost $700,000, $1 million plus. It can be life-saving, life-changing. Sometimes they only need to take it once, and then that's it. I'm not an expert in this, but I sit through a lot of these insurance meetings. And, that's a lot of risk to take on. So Anthem, and then Cigna has a different version. Sun Life has come out with one, where basically they're saying, here's a carve-out, purchase this for a couple dollars per employee per month, if you will, And then if you have one of these gene therapy claims, we will not, the insurance, the stop-loss carrier will not count it against your renewal, and they will not laser the person if they have the gene therapy. So not all our clients have added it, but our conservative clients have. And we have a client, not with gene therapy, but with over a $2 million a year prescription that is life-changing for this person, and it's not going away, fortunately for her. So when you see these claims, you just say, oh, boy. So I like the idea of having this in, and I think over the next decade, it's just going to expand and expand. It's going to be a whole other level of that bar graph. Who knows what we'll call it, but some amazing stuff out there on the market that's expensive. So you have this in place. You have all the levers we can pull so far.
What do you mean by laser that person?
Oh, that's a good question. Yep. Speak of the devil. Let me go to the next slide. So on this slide here, we have some definitions. That's what we're talking about, but it's good to define what all these terms we're using, because when people talk about self-funding, they all use different terms, and every so often I'm in a meeting sometimes, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Say what that means. So individual stop-loss, which I've told you y'all have at $200,000 per person. Okay, so we've gone over that. Then the aggregate stop-loss, that's the amount that will pay 125% of expected claims. And then your stop-loss contract currently has no stop-loss lasers. And what that means is say Lynn is insured here on the Groton plan with the $200,000 specific stop-loss, and Lynn has some real serious illnesses going on, and I have $1 million prescription I take each year, and I'm expected to be in the hospital, whatever it may be, horrible, right? The insurance, the stop-loss insurance carrier may say, okay, Groton or employer, here's your stop-loss renewal. Here's the cost for the individual stop-loss and the aggregate stop-loss. But this member, Lynn, we're going to make her individual stop-loss $400,000. Everyone else is each at $200,000, but Lynn is $400,000. And here's our proposal, and here's the premium for it. And that means you, the employer, if you have a lasered claim, a lasered stop-loss, individual stop-loss, Groton would be responsible for the first $400,000 of Lynn's claims in that example. So we would, in that instance, budget that in the expected claims when we do the renewal, and that's what we had to do about 3 years ago. You hope the stop-loss carrier chooses the wrong claim, to be honest with you. It's horrible. There is legislation in Connecticut that the stop-loss carriers may not laser individuals, claimants, more than 3 times the individual stop-loss level you have in place. So at $200,000, they could never, if they lasered Kelly, they could not make it more than $600,000. So it's something to consider. Every few years we consider increasing the individual stop-loss level, because you have to look at the premium you're paying versus what you think will be in claims, and you want it to balance, and then there's inflation. So we usually increase it every 5 years, 3 to 5 years, if it makes sense. But then as it starts to get higher and higher, and you want to say, hey, what could be a laser situation now that Anthem's doing that? But we were able to negotiate no new lasers in your plan year we're in currently, and also at the renewal for July 25. So what we will be working on hard this year, when we're negotiating the renewal, is when you all agree to the July 1, 25 stop-loss renewal, for example, we will say, hey, we want the July 1, 26 renewal, no new lasers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
You have the leverage to make that demand successfully?
Well, we used to have lasers, and now we don't. So the proof is in the pudding. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I am not
Thank
afraid
you
of
very much, because we
changing
went years
carriers.
with lasers.
We
So,
do it every month,
Yeah.
so they know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we go out to bid, we get lots of quotes, we look at which ones make most sense, and we do what's best for the client. And it's coincidentally worked out that Anthem makes the most sense so far. What else do you want to say about gene therapy?
I think you explained it pretty well before, just that there's currently 7 gene therapies, but Anthem is continuously adding more. I think even from last year to this year, there was 3 or 4 more that are added as they're approved.
What would be an example?
So one, let's see, I don't have the actual names, but there's actually 2 gene therapies to treat hemophilia A and hemophilia B. So these are like life-changing miracle drugs, really. And one of them, I believe, is $2.9 million. And the other is $3.2 million. And it just helps the person be able to live a much better life, just based on that condition. I mean, we know how serious it is, but it's very rare conditions, and it treats specific gene mutations, so that's why they're so expensive, because it's really, really rare conditions. So,
Maybe something like sickle cell.
possibly,
Like sickle cell, I think is a gene disease, isn't it?
could be. I'm not an expert on these, but there's gonna be a ton more hitting the market in the years to come, so I think it's important that you do have this in place, and Anthem will continuously be looking at claimants to see what's going on, and is anyone going to be eligible for any of these medications? So it's good that you already have it in place. And it's only $3 per employee per month, so it's less than $30,000 annually to avoid, $1 million in claims.
Would you be able to inquire about sickle cell? Because I believe there is a therapy that has been approved.
Yeah, we can get you the list of the specific gene therapy solutions included. I get mixed up. We sit through a lot of meetings, and then we talk about specialty pharmacies also, prescriptions, specialty prescriptions, and some of those, too, can be 7 digits plus. So I get confused about which ones are specialty prescriptions, and then gene therapy, and then sometimes what the person's dealing with. It's just so sad, but it's great that there's this, but I'll get you the list of which 7 there are, and then when we negotiate the renewal, Anthem gives us the update, and then when we shop other stop-loss carriers, we ask what their program is. Not all the stop-loss carriers have them, or they didn't last year. A lot of them expanded this past July, and it's something that's on our list.
And then lastly, this isn't really a plan protection per se, but if you were under a fully insured arrangement, the pharmacy rebates would go to the carrier, the insurance carrier, and they would receive 100% of those rebates from the manufacturers. So under the self-funded program, Groton receives 100% of those manufacturer rebates, so that's an additional revenue source, over $1 million.
Does that come back to the board, for the board's side? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
goes
think
into
that's
the reserve.
why our initial numbers from Dave
Didn't he?
varied against what the town ultimately told us, hence why we need that quarterly report.
Yeah. It's changed a lot over the years, and we're really proud of your pharmacy contract, actually. We work really hard with our clients to get the strongest pharmacy contracts and rebates. We don't want the insurance companies keeping any if they don't have to. And they're going to keep some, right? But it's how they line their pockets with fully insured contracts, period. But I guess it was like 5, maybe 6 years ago, a little bragging here, but you were one of the first contracts with Anthem that we were able to negotiate with Anthem overall, where they passed through 100% of the rebates. It was pretty standard where they were, based on the size of the group, only passing through 50, 60, 70, or 80% of the rebates. I think you all were at 80, if I recall, but we got the 100%, and it was a big coup. Now, it's more streamlined in the last 3 years. I'd say the majority of well, all our clients get 100%, but a lot of the clients out there are getting, in the last 3 years, probably 100%. Back in 2018, prescription rebates were maybe $300,000 between the town and board, which is good revenue, right? But when you split it up, 2.5 years ago, we had a bunch of pharmacy RFPs out there, and we were getting them all back. I literally thought they had typos in them, because the pharmacy rebates that we were seeing when we were doing our RFPs for clients were doubling. I remember just saying, I think that's a typo, we got to call the reps. So, what's happened is now it's over 7 digits. So, we'll see. I don't know why they're allowed, but they are, and people are taking them as a revenue stream. It's kind of that careful what you ask for, because you, of course, like the revenue stream, but it's based on the prescriptions that people are utilizing. So sometimes a client will see their rebates going down, but then Kelly will point out on our monthly reports, like, oh, well, look, your prescription usage is going down. So it's that. We'll see what happens now that with the legislation on the government, being able to negotiate with Medicare certain prescriptions. It's going to be more will be rolled out each year, and I'm sure it's going to move into the private world. So the pharmacy companies, they know how to move stuff around like no one's ever seen. So I'm not sure if we're going to be tapped out on prescription rebates, but we'll see. We keep a very close eye on it.
But how does the employer, like, how do we as the school system know what prescriptions are, give us rebates? Does the pharmaceutical
yeah, that's a good
companies have a list?
Well, what we do as your consultant is when we do the RFP, we do a lot of analysis based on the prescription claims that have been utilized the last 24 months. We always go back 2 years. And there's NDC codes, and we ask them to provide us reports saying, okay, if the usage was the same in the last 2 years under your contract, what will the rebates be? And what will your pricing and discounts be? And what will the savings be? So they give us reports, and we go through it. I don't know if we actually I don't know if I've actually looked at the names of the drugs. I mean, they're very complicated Excel spreadsheets, to be honest with you, but they're probably on there. You could probably Google it, too. I keep asking about Ozempic, and no one will answer me.
Probably no rebate on that.
Oh, there's a rebate. I don't believe that. I don't believe it. So it's been a revenue stream. It's gotten a little crazy. We'll see what continues. I think the market's going to change a lot in the next 3 years, in a good way. The transparency legislation that was passed, it's actually leading to transparency. So there's all this data out there that's really hard to read, but there's a lot of smart kids in college that are going to come out with an app that we can learn to read it on. I mean, for real. So the more, the better, and then we'll see what's underneath. So you have to remember with the rebates, it's just the conversation has changed so much in the last 3 to 5 years, because now when you're looking at the overall cost of your plan, you look at expected claims, your fixed costs, and rebates compared to what you'd pay fully insured. All right. Okay, so dig into, this one is the town. I'm going to go to the board.
Lori, where did you say real quick that the rebate money went to? When we get rebates, where does it go to?
So what happens is when we're issued the revenue from the rebates, it's applied to the reserve fund.
Thank you.
And that was like 1.7 million last year, but it was shared between the town and the board.
Correct, yeah. I think there's like a 67-33 split with the board getting the majority.
Right.
Yeah, we always base the splits based on your enrollment when we negotiate the renewal and come up with expected costs. We freeze frame a time frame and that membership, and we just stay consistent. all year. Otherwise, we'd go crazy.
Right.
How do I make this bigger? Y'all can see your page, we did legal size. They all have it on their screen, right? You emailed it to them? Yeah. I feel bad, and it's hard to,
Whatever document you're projecting, you just zoom in on that document, it should follow on the projection.
man, let's see your button. Oh, there it is. Zoom in.
Oh, dear.
There you go.
Oh, they're not too big.
Yeah, I'll just scroll around a little. Yeah. Let me just get the zoom back on. Yeah, thank you. I mean, the people that are on their Zoom, are they looking on their own screen? Or are they, all right, we don't know.
But they have the documents.
That's what I'm thinking, so, all right. All right, so what I want to go through is, I want to go through your, back to 2018, what your expected costs were, and then actual. We don't have all the data because we weren't involved in that renewal, but I just want to start it off, okay? So in 2018, your total expected costs, administrative fees, stop loss, and claims were the $12,369,000. You did not have any plan changes, so we didn't have to make any changes when that happened. What happens is sometimes you have union negotiations, in the fall or the winter in April, and then you change the plans July or September after we're into the new plan year. But if you made plan design changes that are going to impact the expected cost, then we have to make another line item change. So you didn't have any that year. Actual cost came in at $11,900,000. So, compared to your expected costs, your actual costs came in, $400,000 less than expected. You were in the green.
Do we have that on this sheet?
Yes. So are you looking at the one that says the Board of Ed at the top?
No, we got the.
Nah, I got the wrong.
Okay, sorry, I didn't say that last time. Yeah.
I knew the numbers weren't right.
Yeah,
Like this something over here.
They have half the number.
yeah, you're like, how do I get that?
All right, thank you.
And did you net out that year, you don't know that year, because you came the next year. But are we netting out the insurance rebates
Those numbers.
or no?
Not for 2018.
Okay,
Not on this page.
Oh, not on the spreadsheet at all.
it's not on
We
here.
have that
Okay.
somewhere else, though.
Okay,
But,
all right, fair
yeah,
enough.
because this is all just, yeah.
This is just the pure insurance.
Yep. So then we get to 2019, okay? And expected medical, pharmacy, dental claims were $10,484,000. We list your expected admin fees, the $267,000, your network access fee, what you pay to access their network, $235,000, your stop loss premium, $789,000. So therefore, your total expected costs were $11,775,000. We also carefully track average contract annually, per contract annually, because I can tell you, when you start talking about percents in your membership changes, it swings a percent, a lot. So what happens is the next row here, it says the prior year Anthem expected cost budget was $12,369,000. So that, the expected cost for 7/119 at $11,775,000, that is a 4.8% decrease. But because I did not have the average cost per contract from the prior year, my percent is only about the dollars, which you have to be very careful about with board meetings. Our insurance consultant said 5%. Next thing you know, you lost 20 employees. That 5% changes the 9. because that's how percents work, okay? So my negative 4.8% was the dollars. All right, so then, you did make plan design changes. Down below, 350 contracts were part of a plan design change, so obviously the teachers. And then there probably was like parish too or something, because usually it follows. But whatever was negotiated that year, that was almost $500,000 savings in expected future claims for that plan year that was put in place. So then, actual costs, well, no, let me actually keep going here. So total expected costs after the plan changes was $11,319,000, okay? Then the maximum cost, 120, we did the math for the 125%, came out to $14,396,000. But actual cost came in $10 million. So just so you know, your plan year, y'all know, July through June 30th, right? We don't ever come up with actual costs until early October, end of September, early October, because your plan year ends June 30th. But if someone had a claim on June 23rd, it's not going to hit the computers until end of July, August. That's called run out. So we don't do actual costs until the fall, just so you know. That's a whole other conversation, just so you know. So your actual claims came in 1.3 million less than expected. All right, 7120.
That's good.
True.
We had a couple good years there, didn't we?
Very good.
The 7120 plan year, expected claims, 11,258,000. We were negotiating this before COVID. I mean, little did we know, right? Because we do put the date of the final renewal in the top header to keep us straight. I mean, we do at least 7, 8 versions. And it's very important for us to track which one's which. So if we finalize that renewal in March, it would have been claims probably through January, just so you know. So, all right, so I don't want to digress into that stuff. So expected claims, oh no, we did claims through December, it says it right there. I felt you move. You're like, so expected claims of 11,258,258. Then we got the expected admin, network access, stop loss fees. So total expected cost, 12,451,000. But you see how the number of contracts decreased? 724 to 630 up top? Yeah. So that makes that per contract a 21% increase. The dollars,
Sam, when you mean per employee, is that
yes.
per employee? Okay.
Yep. So the dollars, the 12,451,000, it's only 5.7% higher money-wise, dollars. But we really always like to talk percents and contracts.
Yeah.
It really makes a big difference in that percent conversation. Okay, then you did make some plan changes. You had retirees moving off the plan and onto a fully insured plan, which was awesome, saved $120,000. And expected claims moved off the plan. So total expected costs after that change, $12,330,000. Your total max cost was the $15 million and change. Actual came in at 10.9, so you're a 1.3 million less than expected. 7121 column. Expected claims, 10.8. You have your admin fee, network access, stop loss premium, so total expected cost is 11.8 million, which per contract was a 2.6% increase. Dollar-wise, it was actually a decrease. When we meet in December, right, and talk about the renewal, a lot of times we're talking only big numbers. And I'm like, let's stop doing that. Let's talk about contracts. It makes the next meeting horrible. So then total expected cost after plan changes, there weren't any that year. 11.8, max cost the 14.5, Actual came in at 11.7. And so you came in 100,000 less than expected. No one went back to the doctor until February. So you know. I have the reports. Everybody thought they'd all run back, and we all thought that. We had all these fancy calculations.
Didn't work out.
No.
Well, they did, but it was in February, and then they'll be talking about it forever. So July 22, expected claims, 11.3. You have your admin, access fee, stop-loss premium, expected cost, 12.7. You went down, actually, no, it was just simply, it was an increase. So 7.2% increase overall. You went down some in contracts. Overall was a 7, but you had, that year was a big change with the retirees, just so you know, I looked it up. And
Yeah, that was the big year.
it happened mid-year, huge, big win on what Lori and Kim were able to get done. And so then total expected claims, 12 million one, max cost the 15, actual came in at 11, and it was 500,000 less than expected. 7/1/23. So here we are.
That was the challenge year. You remember that year?
The TSD.
It's a big
The
drop,
first
though.
time we started, huh?
They dropped from 724 down to 500.
So, you went way down in contract count,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, too.
and that had so expected claims, 10.8. You have your fixed costs, so it all came out to expected costs of 12,140,000. And 2% increase per contract.
I'm sorry, where do you, okay.
In the 7/1/23.
Got it.
Yep. I don't know how you got lost. And then, no plan changes, so we stayed at expected cost 12.1 million. Max cost would be the 14.8, which we always are looking at. And then actual ended up coming in at 12.9, which was $800,000 higher than expected. You had some significant large claims.
Yeah.
We've analyzed the heck out of it. So, large claims, for a group your size, can make claims go this way or that way by $1 million.
Was your research allow you to infer whether that's a one-time thing or whether that's likely to repeat?
So, yes. So you always have large claims. That's why you have insurance. But there's a certain amount of large claims that we expect. And then with a lot of large claims, there's a cycle, depending upon the condition. Sometimes it's 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years. Sometimes they're going to be baked in there for as long as they're insured. And once they are, it's fine. They've become part of the budget. It's not the end of the world. It's just, so we have meetings with Anthem, and sometimes they bring in their nurse and their pharmacist. Actually, we met with the pharmacist yesterday to understand what's going on with your large claims now. And they give us information, not on who's who, but what are they expecting in the future. And it's just good for us to know. Sometimes, so we spend a lot of time looking at it. It's the biggest piece of the pie.
Can I ask a question? And this might be for Lori. It looks like we've lost 100 or 225 employees fewer in healthcare, whatever this is, 7 years or something. Who was that?
So it would be a combination of staff reductions that we've had over time, but then it also could be various other factors. So it could be individuals aging out at age 26 coming onto the plan. So it kind of goes back and forth, it ebbs and flows. We pick up some, we lose some, but staff reductions, individuals moving to their spouse's plan because maybe their coverage is more attractive, more cost-effective. There's different reasons why they might choose to leave us and go to a spouse's plan. So we do see some of that as well. Yeah.
Is there any groups of employees, like bargaining groups that have kind of dropped off insurance altogether because of the costs? Or not, shouldn't say altogether, but where we've seen like large losses and taking advantage of insurance for the employees?
I would say the only group that I think doesn't take advantage of the health plan are the paraeducators, because it's an ACA plan. It's a very high deductible plan.
Yeah.
So that is a plan that only a small number of individuals take because of the size of the deductible, the cost, but all the other groups, utilize the plan to a fair degree. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
I will just add that a piece of it is retirees that were covered on the self-funded plan and over time have been moved to much lower cost, fully insured plans.
That's true.
Yeah, so that's a good chunk of it too. But it is a combo of what Lori said and retirees.
Yeah, that happened like 1920, right? Wasn't there a migration?
It happens every year, more and
Yeah.
more. I mean, Kim did an amazing job communicating the programs, but yeah, it started in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want retirees in the self-funded program. Rule number one. Fully insured, right. Okay, so this year, 7/1/24. So, expected claims, 12.7. And your large claims when we were doing this were ongoing, significant amount of them. It always will be, but significant. We have the fixed costs, the total expected cost would be 14.2.
Notice that stop loss keeps rising.
Yes.
724 lives for 789,000. Now we're down to 497 lives with 1.1 million.
And we mark that every year.
You know, I'd love to look it up, but when we were hired, your stop loss was over $1 million, and we got it way down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was one of our, oh yeah, it was a big, it was challenge accepted.
So it went up with lasering.
Well, we did have that for a few
We had,
years.
because last year we got hit pretty hard with that, I think, right?
I mean, what's happened in the stop loss market industry-wide since that year when the lasering started, we really actually see regular renewals 30-40% in the stop loss world now. The high claims are high. It's just, there's so much more now available to treat people.
Right.
And then
high-cost treatments.
Yep, and I'm convinced there's more money for providers to bill sepsis, but that's just my analysis. I didn't know what sepsis was till 7 years ago. How is that possible? Now I see $1 million sepsis claims almost for each client.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm suspect.
So this just shows us the cost of medical care is increasing.
Yeah, that's what
Oh,
we're
it
saying.
is, yes.
That's what it
It
is.
is.
Yeah.
It's a super good, I was told. So, yeah, I mean, so the stop loss is really difficult. We shop it every year. We negotiate the heck out of it. The industry is rough. So, we're seeing what we can do. The 7/1/24, I mentioned the total expected cost, the 14.2. There were no plan design changes. So the 14.2 and then a max exposure, the 17.4. Now, please note at the bottom here, fortunately, we had the Anthem fully insured equivalent premiums, or the Board of Ed. If you had the same membership and the same plan designs, Anthem gave us their fully insured premium equivalents. I do this because I didn't negotiate these. So if you were fully insured, I probably would have negotiated something a little better. But this is what they're saying their fully insured premiums are, at the $16,189,000.
Yeah.
So,
Instead of the 14.
until the 14.2, yeah,
So self-insured is still,
it is. You guys have, honestly, your self-funded program runs well. You've put in a lot of programs that have been smart, as far as with the high deductibles and management programs with your pharmacy plans and your medical plans and medical management, and we watch it every month. it's well managed. So it was a rough year last year, the last 2 years, because you had the high increase, and then they were continuing, so, hopefully it goes back down. The trend.
How many months have we seen so far? Did we get to July? Do you remember? No. Yeah.
And, excuse me, but we used to get that monthly, and I noticed that went to quarterly. Is there a reason for, we used to get the monthly, it was always delayed by, what, 2 months, would you say?
Too much. Yeah.
Was there a change
No,
as to why it's quarterly? No? Okay.
it's monthly. The rebates are quarterly.
Oh, okay.
That's just how
I thought at the last meeting, somebody said we're only going to be seeing, Irene said, we're only going to be seeing these quarterly now,
that was.
and I wasn't sure.
I know that there were a lot of times, there was lag time and we weren't getting them,
Yeah.
you
Oh
know,
my gosh,
to
when they
be able
changed their systems, and they changed their name 3 times from Anthem to Elevance to Carillon, there was a huge lag, because you used
Yeah.
to,
we're just not getting them.
well, you are now.
We
It's-
are?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
it's been
It's all
fine for
fixed.
the last year plus.
Okay.
But
Okay.
there was a time when they switched to Carillon, and then they used to, when we changed where you were getting all the rebates 100%, and then we negotiated a new pharmacy contract, a lot of good pricing. They used to pay the rebates end of the year settlement. And then we said, if we go to quarterly, you'll get it soon, it'll be better for cash flow. But to do that, it was gonna be a 180-day lag, which is standard. Cigna actually, yeah, but most out there, 180 days is standard. And Anthem systems were new, I think it ended up being closer to 9 months. You got all the rebates, but that first year, you knew there was gonna be a 180-day lag, it ended up being closer to 9 months. But since then, it's fine. That's what I'm talking about, though.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Sure.
So we'll touch on reserve considerations. So we had discussed before that it's good to have the rainy day fund. That's just money set aside to cover future claims that come in. If there is that claim lag, usually at the end of the plan year. And then also if claims do run higher than budgeted, you do want to have some funds to cover that as well. So we put together a conservative, moderate, and aggressive view of where we think you could potentially fund the reserve. A very, very, very conservative view would be to fund that full 125% of expected claims, plus 3 months of run-out claims.
3 months of run-out claims would be funded. Usually, employers only do that piece if you're going to switch from self-funding to fully insured, because you would be responsible for not only paying the new fully insured premium, but then all those claims that,
That we're coming.
yeah. So it's pretty darn rare, just so you know. That's why this is ultra-conservative.
What does it mean, run out claims?
So in my example, if you had a claim you went to the doctor on June 23rd, your plan year ends June 30th. That claim from the doctor to the insurance company to get processed and paid, it's probably not going to get paid till end of July, August. And then if you were in the hospital and you had multiple surgeries and multiple providers, like a transplant, we don't see those claims for 6-7 months because they're so complicated. So a transplant could happen in December, and then if they come in July, it doesn't hit the stop loss. So you just want to be careful, that's rare, but we track that.
Okay, and then a moderate view would be looking at funding maybe like half of that aggregate corridor, so somewhere between 110, 115%, plus 2 months of run-out claims. And I would say that the claim lag nowadays is more like 45 days to 2 months, so you could even say 45 days is still sufficient enough. And we have aggressive here, I would not recommend this, but only reserving 5% over that expected claim cost and 45 days of runout claims.
I mean, you're gonna all wanna talk about this. You probably do some sort of combination, you know, if you can afford to put 115% in reserve and have 45 days of run out, it's great. Easier said than done, I know, but it's nice to have a goal. What's that?
What are we doing now?
I don't know.
The reserve is held at the town. I would say previously, from experience, we were in the conservative category. We would always reserve with the town 125% of the expected claims, and then we'd always have a few $1 million of additional, run-out claim money. And that would be to protect if we had a claim year like this year, where claims came in higher than expected, we would have money to fall back on and not have to go into that 125% amount. As far as where it is now, I couldn't say. I mean, I think there's been dialogue with the town to try and identify exactly what the reserve looks like, but
Well,
I haven't seen that.
We had a cash balance August 30th of 2.734, so 2,734,000.
A cash balance set aside in your reserve?
That was the cash balance of the health account. How much of that, how much is that? No, that was just the Board of Ed side. And how much of that is corridor versus reserve versus,
Yeah, there'd have to be some.
I don't have,
I mean, moving forward, I think that should be something that comes as a standard report, having that kind of breakdown.
yeah,
It used to.
you know,
yeah, we
and
used to
that
get a quarterly,
Monthly, quarterly,
yeah.
yeah. 'Cause,
We
I
would
mean,
ask
that's-
for that.
And I know it's all internal, from my understanding, that's internal bookkeeping, it's not like they have separate accounts in a bank someplace, is that correct?
It's
So-
all coming through the town.
Right, so it's all coming through the general fund,
Right.
which depends much on very faithful bookkeeping in between their little line items inside their ledger. So,
Well, that's why I'm presenting this to the town next week, too. So
Right.
everybody can see these different definitions and thoughts, and then probably all come together and discuss it.
right, and I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that we get a regular report where it's articulated, what is our reserve, what's our corridor, what amounts are on the books, similar to a bank statement. If we ran without the town, we'd get statements like that.
So one thing I'd like to mention, because with the reserve conversation, you know, if we're having a tough renewal, meaning the costs are higher than everybody really is ready for, or even a really good renewal, where it's much less than everybody was expecting, that can even be more difficult. People start talking about the reserve. The one thing I just want to remind everybody is that when you're in the midst of a plan year, right, we'll be talking about the budget and the renewal this winter. Your plan year is July through June. And we don't get the runout claims in the end of your plan year, what actual costs were until end of September, early October. So that's why I just like to put this little note here at the bottom of this page saying, the plan year settlement is completed at the end of September. And, you know, MDG, our company, recommends we review incurred but not reported claims and reserve balance in the fall. What happens with a lot of clients is everyone starts hyper-focusing on it during the good or the bad renewal. And you want to just, if you can, just say, hey, let's all look at this reserve when we're not doing the midst of a renewal in the fall, when we see what actually happened compared to what we were expecting. Just throwing it out there.
So what time of year do you think would be a good, like,
End of
right about
October.
now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be-
Like
how-
late October, early
Halloween.
November?
Before
Halloween.
Thanksgiving.
Okay.
End of October.
That's where we find out if we got tricks or treats.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
Be careful how I present that.
But we should also see quarterly updates
Right.
that take advantage of the incoming, insurance rebates.
Yeah. Have we ever gotten anything like that that shows us that?
All right, let's keep going. There's a lot to go through here, folks. So, here is the town and board combined renewal history, actual cost versus budget, which also includes prescription rebates. Yes?
Can I just go back a little bit? I was just looking at the town numbers, and we kind of skipped over that.
Yeah.
And we don't have to run through that whole thing, because it takes a lot of time. But I did want to point out, I did a little math, and the average claim, like the town employees cost more per employee by, it was like $2,600 or something like that, more per year.
Okay.
So the way the math works out, the board is kind of subsidizing the town. Like, as part of being the group, we're paying in.
Someone's always subsidizing someone. Yeah.
All right, so, but just because there's options on maybe part of the group going to private insurance or something, like other things to consider. But I just wanted to kind of point that out. Yeah, all right, it was $26.67 more per employee for town employees, which totals out to $685,000. So, all right.
All right, so,
Thanks for bringing that up.
you want to go through?
Sure, so we have the combined renewal history, actual cost versus budget. So we have it by plan year back to 7/1/16. The first column, Anthem expected total cost, this is gonna be what budget is based off of, based on Anthem's renewal. The actual total cost from settlement is what we were just talking about, that we get typically end of September, beginning of October, the actual cost for the plan year. And then the difference, actual versus expected, what was budgeted. I will highlight, I think we kind of touched on this before, but you can see very blatantly in 7/1/19 to 6/30/20, the RX rebates are blank there. And that is because that was when Ingenu RX became effective that year. And like Lynn said, there was like a 9-month plus lag. This does not mean that you didn't receive rebates. This means that I could not find the report to determine how much was actually received. So it's not that you didn't get rebates that year. I just was not finding the actual report to put it into this format. But you did receive them. So the RX rebates received is what was actually paid in that plan year. So this is on the 6-month lag. And then we have your actual total cost from the settlement less the RX rebates received. So that's kind of your net cost with those RX rebates, reducing your actual cost. So I think every year except for 7/1/16, you were in the green when we include those RX rebates.
But this is us combined.
This is the total group because your self-funded program is combined town and Board of Ed together.
But do you know who gets what? Do you know the split?
It's 2/3 a third.
So we get 2/3, they get a third.
One thing to note, though, so even though you're combined to project costs negotiate the stop-loss premium, the fixed costs. But then the claims overall, what the renewal will be. But then what Anthem does is they provide us segmented renewals. And then based on the actual claims for the town or the board, then we get the actual premium equivalents. So each plan design that you have, one group might have a $2,000 deductible with 5, 10, 20 prescription copays. Another might have a $2,000 deductible with 10, 25, 40 prescription copays and different managed care edits. All the plans are a little different. Anthem gives us premium equivalents for each plan for the town and the board. And they do that in this segmented renewal, which is based on your actual claims, just so you know. You're one of our only clients that does that. Our other, you can continue to do it, it's fine, but our other combined towns and schools, they combine all their claims, and then they just all have the premium equivalents. They'll always change based on plan design, because there's a value to having a $2,000 deductible versus a $3,000 deductible, right? But Anthem is doing the premium equivalents based on the claims for the town and the board. I wanted to mention that. So the town may be more expensive, but if you look at their premium equivalents, you have to line them all up, plan design by plan design to see it, but it should be higher, just so you know.
All right.
I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
So the segmented renewals make it a little confusing, because as we do this whole renewal process, we're looking at you as one big group. We're looking at all the claims, predicting the future, what we expect costs to be. And we'll say, it's going to be a 7% renewal. And then we break it down by contract. We're like, it's 8.5, because contracts went down, right? But then we get the magical segmented renewals from Anthem Underwriting, and we don't have we can't do what the premium equivalents are. They have to do that. And then we see, oh, great, this plan's going up 13%, this one's going up 3%, and it's all over the place, and it makes the percent conversation. Even if you're together, that still happens, if you didn't do a segmented renewal, but it just adds another layer of, oh boy, where are we gonna land with percents? All right. Partnership. I have their material, the state partnership plan. I'm going to go through their presentation. But before we do that, I thought I'd just show you the numbers first. I pay much more attention when I see the numbers. So what this shows is the partnership, the state partnership 2.0 program, and their renewal history. So basically, this most recent year, we were told last February it was going to be a 7% increase. So we were doing all our calculations on the partnership going up 7%. They ended up going up 2.8, which was good. The prior year, I'm not going to read all these percents off, but on the right-hand side is a chart showing a loss ratio. Now, the state is self-funded. They don't have stop-loss, but they have enough people. They're the size of a small insurance company. So the loss ratio, you want it to be under 100%, because it represents the amount of premium equivalents of what you're expecting to pay to the doctors, pharmacists, hospital, versus what you actually paid. So if you saw a loss ratio of 110%, anything over 100%, that means the program is in the red. And if it's under 100%, it's not in the red. So one of our concerns with the partnership program, putting it out there, is that if a town or school has really high claims, and they have some of these horrible, things we've been talking about, and they do the math on what the state premium equivalents are that they pay fixed every month, which I'm going to get into in more detail, off the town and school that jumps into the partnership plan. So we are concerned that the partnership plan is maybe attracting the higher risk, and that it's going to be running running a deficit, and how long is the state going to allow that? I don't know. It's political, so they come up with the money one way or another. In '22, they had a lot of ARPA money that they used, like 22, I don't think of the numbers right now, it's too late, but it was a lot of money, I forget.
So the state is fully self-insured on this?
Yes.
So there's effectively no profit where something like Anthem, they're selling you a policy. There's a rule on it, right? It's like
Fully insured.
15% profit or something. It's capped, isn't it? The amount
So-
of profit that they can make on a plan?
Well, it's a couple different things you just said. So a fully insured plan has target loss ratios, let's just say 85%, because that's what healthcare reform, the ACA law, said the loss ratio should be 85%. That doesn't mean, so what that means is for every dollar an employer pays in premium, the insurance company should be paying out 85 cents to, in claims to the doctors, pharmacists, hospital, right? And the other 15 cents for every dollar, it's not all profit because they have to pay their people, pay their bills, pay to do the programs that they do, but their target is definitely a 3% profit. That's what they want. Insurance companies make all their money off their reserves in the bank.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, I know everybody wants to hate on the insurance companies, and there's plenty to do. It's jobs, we go to work all day long to fix all their mistakes, right? But the profit is truly like 3%. That's what their targets are. So it's not 15%.
All right.
So yes, but when you're self-funded, you are paying the insurance company, the third-party administrator, a fee in their stop-loss premium, so they're looking to make money off that. But with this, with the state, you know, they're paying, they have to pay, they have Anthem as a third-party administrator now, CVS for pharmacy, and Cigna for dental. And this is their loss ratio for their claims. So my concern is if it runs a deficit, what's going to happen? That's my concern. So
Then increase your taxes.
So, but they, percent increase per year is, I assume that's calculated so they don't run a deficit, correct?
that's what everybody's yelling and screaming about. They want to see the claims data. So they have been giving us the quarterly claims data, the comptroller's office this past year, since last winter, and they are running under 100%. I recall.
97.
Oh, there's 37. That's what everybody wants, is a little more transparency on this plan. I think it would go a long way. I don't know why they're not doing it. They're doing more. All right, so then I did the comparison. The lady in her office did it. So this spreadsheet here, I'm just going to start at the top and read through it, okay? What it shows, 7/1/22 to June 30, 23. It shows the active, meaning Groton Town and Schools. Oh, this is you guys combined, and then I separate you, but let's just do combined first, okay? So town and schools combined, your premium equivalents, Anthem calls those allocation rates, equated to $20,319,000. So when you add up all the membership and all your plans, when they predicted the renewal for your expected costs and all your fixed costs, it's usually within 2% of this number, and then we know there isn't a typo or formula error, if you will. So they said the premium equivalents equal $20 million. Your expected rebates that year were $862,000. HSA funding, because you have your employees in the high deductible health plan, that's a cost to the town and board, over $1 million. So your total expected costs, less the rebates, plus the HSA funding for town and schools together is $20,500,000. If you had been with the partnership plan, there's two numbers on the right, $24 million or $25 million. The difference is they have this wellness program, which I'll explain to you. But basically, you pay two sets of premiums, whether or not people are in the wellness program or not. The first 18 months you're part of the program, you pay the lower amount. For everybody. Correct, yes. All right, so that year, obviously, the partnership was not competitive. The following year, 7/123 to June 30, '24, allocation rates came out to $20,400,000, less expected rebates, plus the HSA funding. That means we thought the cost would be the 19.7 versus on the right-hand side, the two partnership premiums. Then 7/124, 24 million, less expected rebates, plus the HSA funding, 23.3. And then we have the state plan, the two sets of premiums. So getting closer and closer. Now, what's not included in this, the notes at the bottom, if you were to change to fully insured, whether or not it's partnership or going to Cigna fully insured or Connecticut fully insured, okay? Just the board or the board in the town, but this number here, the board and the town together, if you all switch to fully insured, estimated run-out claims would be about 3.2 million. That's a one-time, it's not every year, but you would want to have that money in the bank.
A reserve, so to
So that
speak,
would
to
be
pay out
hang
the
on to
claims.
reserve
Yeah.
until that.
Yeah, and that's why, so those reserve considerations, if you know you're gonna wanna do fully insured, then that's when you definitely say, hey, we should definitely put at least 2 months of run-out claims in the bank, if not 3. I would just put 3. I would put 3. That's what it is. Okay, so the next page is the town, and then I'll go to the board. Okay, so on the board, the allocation premium, all right, now this spreadsheet is slightly different because it doesn't include the rebates and the HSA funding. Oh, is it? Yes, it is, thank you, thank you. So, this is for the most recent year. 7/124, and there's a lot to doing these because of all the different premiums and active versus retiree, but basically your active employees' premium equivalents come out to 13 million. The partnership, 12 million. If it, yeah, Irving Wallace. Then you have the HSA funding, so it'd be the 13.8 versus the 12. But then you have to add in the retirees. Your expected costs are 1.4. Under the partnership, it's 2 million. And then the retirees in the fully insured plan. You assume, I guess they win the Advantage plan.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
What do you mean by compliant and non-compliant?
That's the wellness program I'm going to describe. So there's 2 sets of rates that the partnership charges. And if you get your physical each year, get a dental cleaning, and do some coaching, you get to pay the lower rate.
Okay,
And if you don't do that, you have a higher premium.
okay. Thank you.
It's a pretty good program, actually. So this page here shows the savings moving to the partnership.
But doesn't include the insurance rebates.
Not the rebate, so let me just make sure we break this down. Because I know, I'm sorry, every spreadsheet always seems to be different, but always different scenarios. The allocation premiums or in the HSA funding come up to 15.7 for the self-funded income program and the fully insured retirees. The partnership, if everybody would be for the first 18 months in the lower premium, the 14.2. But then you wouldn't be including the pharmacy rebates.
Last year's pharmacy rebate was a little over $1 million.
Yes, this year,
1.7,
the plan year we're in now, it's expected to be for the town and board, 1.7. So the board would expect to get 2/3 of that. So a little over $1 million.
What's the actual value difference, though? Because as far as like from reading what we offer employees now, these kind of high deductible,
Oh, the plan is, I'll show you that.
so the,
Yep.
yeah, because these aren't apples to apples
They're
plans.
not.
They're significantly different, correct?
All right, so let's switch to, so
us.
Does Mike have two of everything? Do you have this thing? Okay.
You mind, I don't know, when I sat through a partnership meeting the other day, they did a nice job. What they did is they presented this one pager, which is double-sided, and then we referenced the slides. I was gonna do it the same way she did it. Yeah, I'm just gonna give it a try. Because I think as I go through this one pager, you can reference the slides. That's what happened in the meeting I did 3 weeks ago. So the partnership program is completely different benefit plan. It's one plan. State of Connecticut, one plan. We work with all these towns and schools, 33 plan designs. 100,000 employees, one plan design. Hats off. But it's not a high deductible health plan. So one of the big differences are, it's a copay plan. So remember the days when you go to the doctor, show your ID card, hand over a copay, out, right?
Nice.
Now, the majority of your folks are in a high deductible health plan, where they have the two or $4,000 deductible, and then they have the bank accounts, the health savings accounts, where they, the board and themselves can put money aside into that bank account pre-tax. So you have two types of folks. You have some people that want to go back to copays, hard copay, out. Then you also have some people that like having that money in the health savings account build up as a nest egg to eventually use. I want to use one day for whatever Medicare doesn't cover, and I'm hoping that's my mini medical 401k, if you will. So we're trying. We keep hitting our deductible, but we try and overfund it, regardless. So those are the two big conversations with employees when you're looking at the partnership plan, because it's a different plan design, and there's pros and cons to that. Also, I'm horrible at presenting to slides, but I'll keep trying. Well, I'll just follow this slide. So the partnership program, basically, it's a $15 copay when you visit a doctor. It's the Anthem Blue Care Point of Service Network in Connecticut, which is huge. And then if you're outside of Connecticut, it's the Century Preferred PPO, which is huge. That's what you all have now. So you pay a $15 copay when you go to a doctor, and preventive care is covered 100%. And you have a $5 or a $10 copay for generic drugs. I'll go into more detail on pharmacy. But most people like paying a copay for prescriptions versus having to meet their deductible, no doubt. We are going to talk about the wellness program. It's called HEP, Health Enhancement Program, in more detail. But before we do that, the state has put in some pretty darn good programs to help control costs and, in my opinion, add benefits. Their first bullet is the Health Enhancement Program. So as I mentioned, you need to get a physical each year. It's all based on age and gender. On slide 4 of this little handout, it shows the age and gender wellness visits and what's involved in the HEP program. So basically, a preventive visit, it shows you how often based on age and gender. I shouldn't say every year, they did change that recently. So it's either every 3 years or every 2 years. A dental cleaning once a year. And then cholesterol screening, 20 plus. And then there's different screenings folks get, obviously if they're a lady or a fellow. And if you do all that, then you qualify for the lower premium, the HEP compliant. It's about a 5% difference between the HEP compliant rate and the non-HEP compliant rate. So again, you're in the HEP compliant rate for the first 18 months. And the state gives reports monthly. So the payroll team has to keep an eye out on that and change it. So it gets confusing at everybody waits the last minute. But, that's administration. There is a Providers of Distinction program where there's specific providers that folks go to, they pay a lower cost share. On the back of this one pager, I'm going to scroll to it so the people online can see it. Y'all just turn the page over. This is the actual plan design. Showing the copay of $15. The max out of pocket is $2,000 an individual, $4,000 family. That's for the medical. That doesn't include prescription. Prescription has a separate max out of pocket. But, I mean, $15 copays, it's not, you have to go a lot to worry about that maximum. There is an annual deductible of $350 if you're not HEP compliant. For the first 18 months, you don't have to worry about that.
A quick question.
Yeah.
So with the state plan, that's a fully insured plan?
To you, the employer, yes. They charge you the set premiums each month.
Right. So that would, in some ways, that would remove the need to have a corridor and a reserve.
There would be no reason to have a reserve.
Okay. Thank you.
They have a Providers of Distinction program, and I want to make sure I describe this right. Where there's certain providers, when you go to them,
Where are you on that?
yeah, I'm looking for it on the slides, I apologize. She spoke to it. I guess she just spoke to it. So she just spoke to it, I apologize, I'm just gonna verbally.
It's on the front.
Yeah, it's on the front, but I'm just trying to look for more guts to it. So there's basically certain providers that are qualified as Tier 1 or Tier 2, based on cost and quality components. And if you go to those specific providers, you can earn a cash incentive. So if you're scheduling a new hip, right, and you're deciding between 3 different surgeons, and you like them all equally, this might put it over the edge. It's up to you. You don't have to do this. It's just a part of the program. So they're trying to steer people towards providers that have quality results that are lower cost. Livongo, this is a separate vendor. We actually have a lot of clients that use Livongo. For folks that are diabetic, it's all voluntary. But basically, they give you a nice, neat machine to track everything in a scale. And they reach out if they see your blood sugars dropping. It's a very nice, slick program that it's voluntary. And a lot of folks that are diabetic do like the program and the support they receive. Upswing Health, this is new to me, this particular vendor, but the state put them in place for virtual visits for joint pain, orthopedic issues. So Anthem's just talked to us the other day about this for musculoskeletal, doing like this isn't the exact program, I'm just saying what you folks also have, physical therapy online, virtually, I should say, pardon me. Not sure if it's for the person or the AI, though, to be honest with you. That's what I've been trying to make sure I understand with a lot of these programs.
Interesting.
I mean, you're not gonna go right after you had surgery, you're not gonna do it virtually, but once you go and you've been doing the exercises, sometimes you forget what you're supposed to do with your shoulder because you're moaning about your knee, I live this. All the exercises, but then you forget, you're like, what am I saying? The diabetes prevention program has the coaching, online challenges to help folks that are pre-diabetic. So they have not only Livongo for diabetic folks, but then the pre-diabetic program, which is good to have. Oops, I skipped one of the more important parts. Okay, Health Navigator's new. So I'll be real curious, because obviously you're going to call other towns and schools, right? And talk about, why did you go into the program, or why did you leave? And then specifically, what I'm going to be interested in is they put in this Health Navigator program this July, and it's Quantum, who is a very good company. I'm familiar with them, only have good things to say, but basically, the state is using Quantum to do all customer service and handle all the day-to-day questions. The comptroller's office could not take all those calls. And I don't think it was as smooth with Anthem as they had wanted. That's just my guess. So Quantum is a very good company, and they put this in place July 1st, and I think we should all ask other towns and schools how that's going. And I'm sure they're going to learn something and make some tweaks, right? All right, let me just flip to the PowerPoint. So we've already mentioned, yeah, I can see that. You're gonna be an expert with your laptop soon. I'm used to the mouse here. Okey-doke. So the partnership program renews every July. From your perspective, it'll be fully insured premium you're paying the state. The premium equivalents, if you will. And it's gonna be based on the state's experience, so that's why I have that renewal history there for you. Most recent meeting I had with the comptroller's office is they're right now saying 4% increase for July 1, 25. So come January and February, that's when we really start paying attention. And then this past year, they finally did, I think they did finally tell us the final rates last week of March or first week of April. In the past, it has always been May, which is very disruptive.
Yeah, since all of our budgets are due in
Yeah.
for boards of ed February 28th.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So they've heard that loud and clear, so that's why I think they did that. I already told you the medical plans with Anthem, the point of service in Connecticut, PPO. It's a 4-tier pharmacy program. It's with CVS. The dental, there's multiple dental plans. It's through Cigna. We have not done the analysis on that. Usually when you're self-funded, you're better off staying self-funded with dental, but we can look at having it switched to the state. We'd have to look at it. And then vision. So you apply. I've never heard of them declining, which is what concerns me. It's a 3-year commitment, which whenever you join a large group of others, there should always be a long-term commitment. Otherwise, they're all gonna be like, psst, what? You gotta do better. And then the group falls apart. So you should, whenever you join a consortium or any other group of multiple employers, there should always be a long-term commitment and a clear exit strategy. So they outline here. So basically, there's penalties if you leave early, and they outline what it is. You're only going to leave early if the deal is going to be a savings plus the penalties is still a savings. So. After 3 years, there's no penalties to leave.
Quick question.
Yeah.
How would those exit assessments compare to the run-out costs of the self-funded plan?
I don't know, I'd have to look at that. I haven't done the math.
Okay. Thank you.
I bet similar.
I'm kind of thinking that too.
I hope, right, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So if we went to the state plan, would it be impossible to go back to self-funded?
No, after about 3, well, there's challenges, okay, so no, it would not be impossible. You'd probably join the state plan for 3 years. I think that's what most people do. And then, if you went self-funded again, what happens is when you go from fully insured to self-funding,
You got to have a reserve.
yeah,
You gotta start with a reserve.
lag in claims. So that first month or two, the claims aren't coming out of your bank account because it takes time for the claims to come in. So what you're supposed to do is during that lag in claims is take the money that you're used to paying in fully insured premium and put it in the bank.
Right.
It doesn't happen all the time though. Sometimes, bad luck happens, but, you know.
Can I add one comment related to Bev's question? The plan designs are different. So if you leave and go to the partnership plan, you go to a completely different plan design. So if you decide to come back, you don't know what those plan designs are really going to look like. They probably won't look like they look today, right?
No, I mean, if you move to a $15 copay plan, and then you go back to fully insured, it's gonna be, I mean, to go to self-funding, I mean, you've just spent the last 10 years negotiating in these high deductible, the plans that you have in place, so.
Right.
So you might not get it as good as you have it now, is what you're saying.
Well, they're completely different plan designs.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in order to move back, I think we would be faced with, what's a comparable plan to the state plan after you've been in it for 3 years?
Yeah, right.
And what does that cost?
Yeah, so if the employee union, like negotiations, end up towards the other plan, there's value in that.
I
For the
haven't
employees.
seen this, however, other lawyers, that deal with negotiations all the time have told me, they're like, Lynn, what we've done is we've said, okay, we're gonna move this to partnership plan, but if we exit, we're going back to the plan designs that were in place. Make it easier with the communication with the unions, whole equal or better.
You have to do that up front.
Yeah, so you'd want to definitely engage counsel on that, and have that high on the checklist.
Good to know.
The health enhancement program, the wellness program, the preventive care, basically getting your physical. Also, if you have a chronic condition, list them off, diabetes, asthma, heart disease, hypertension. They want you to participate in the chronic condition management program, which basically involves coaching. They'll reach out to you, there's a schedule, how many times you're supposed to talk to the nurse per se. If you don't do it, then you will not qualify for the lower premium. So this is something that will come up with some people as an issue. Now, if you do participate in it, you get the HEP compliant premium, and that $350 deductible I mentioned is waived. And then there's certain prescriptions, certain maintenance prescriptions, the chronic management people are taking them, the copays go down. So there's a lot of incentive to participate in this program. I don't think it's the heaviest lift, but I've heard people say, oh, this is to me.
So those fees are employee by employee, so it's not like the whole district is out of that HEP plan, HEP plan?
No, it's per person, correct.
Yeah, you
All
can
right,
opt
so
in or
it's-
opt out.
if an employee makes their own decision to not go to the doctor,
Correct.
Right.
they just pay more. and
They're
they know
the
that.
only one
By
impacted.
family. It's by family, so.
Yeah, but it's not everybody. Like, if some don't do it, it doesn't apply to the whole group.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't apply to the family.
Right, I
You
can,
and your spouse aren't agreeing on when to get a physical, that's the problem.
right. I could speak to that a good bit, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, I am a state employee,
okay,
and we do have, this is my insurance we're looking at
yeah,
here.
so you're quite familiar.
Right, and,
You should be presented. Good grief, I've been talking since 6 o'clock.
yeah. And yeah, I can say that, the HEP compliance, you do get a letter, and it lists all my family members, and who's compliant and who's not. And then I have to, but you can also get waivers. Like, my older son now is in the Navy. So he's still technically on my plan, but since he's got his own primary coverage and all that, I was able to fill out a form and get it waived. So he's no longer like held against me as being compliant or not compliant. Yeah, and I anticipate something similar may happen with my younger son too. So, but as far as like co-pays and prescription drugs, especially chronic medications, you are able, they have their preferred brands, of course, but you are able to get waivers and exemptions for name brand if, with like supporting doctors, note indicating that, like, for whatever, like some people, just chemically, it doesn't work, the generics don't work, as well as the name brands. So there's a lot of, flexibility built inside of this as well. And and Quantum is a good interface. Very helpful, yeah. Yeah.
What have you heard? What's the rumor?
No, I
No, I don't know.
I appreciate having, it's nice to have a phone number you can call and kind of work your way through a problem. You don't have to do as much research on your own.
Yeah.
They help you do the research on the phone as far as like looking at options for various things. They even like looking for providers for certain services. They'll email you a whole list of people, and they'll identify who's in network, who's out of network. And they still provide coverage for out of network, it's just a lesser amount. Like my dentist is not in network, so I pay a little bit out of pocket for that, but, it's not crazy. It's, affordable, so.
I went through this, told you that all of you automatically enrolled, and, where is that? So one big thing, I don't think it's part of this, I want to bring up. Well, here's the difference in the premium, I told you about 5%, but it's basically $100 more a month. which is basically- Okay, so one thing I want to mention is, if you switch to the partnership plan, you go with the state plan, and the CBAC contract is up 2027. So if they change one of the co-pays from 5 to 10, or 15 to 10, or 15 to 20, that will be the new plan. There's no say.
You have no say, right?
Right.
Plan design is the plan design.
Correct. There you go. Wow, I went over an hour and a half. You guys did good.
But the CBAC plan is up, but the unions will fight.
It's a state union.
Yeah, I belong to the state union. Yeah, and they'll fight for a good plan for the employees.
All right, I'll recognize Matt.
Thank you. I read this as carefully as I was able to, though it'll be obvious in a flash that this is not an area of expertise that I have any pretension about whatsoever. And some of this you have touched on, and even Adrian touched on one of the things. So I'll just run through 4 questions, and I'll do one at a time. The first thing that struck me was the unmistakable trend of diminishing enrollees. Between 7/2018 and February 24, the town was down 31 1/3%. The school district was down 17.37%. So my question is, what are our projections for the next 3 to 5 years? And what does that imply for us financially and in terms of what we can offer? And a sidebar to that, which is kind of directed for the board for a future conversation, if we are able, this is just me speaking only for myself, if we are able to achieve some savings here, and we have a number of our employees under different contract who tend to be among our lower income or lower wage level employees, is there some way we could consider the possibility, subject to contracts and negotiations, of extending a better health package to these folks who are declining to join because they can't afford the premium and they can't afford the co-pays? That's not your question. It's something we can perhaps address another time. You know whom I'm talking about. So I guess the first question is, what projections do we have for enrollment? And secondly, why are people, I know this was raised by Adrian, why are people leaving? And my question is, yes, some of them will be spousal, some of them will be for whatever reason. I just want to know that it's not an equity issue that's ending up affecting our lower wage earning employees, so that everybody gets a fair shot at good health coverage. I don't know, this may not be the moment to talk about, but I think that's an issue for me that's important. Anybody want to respond to that
I
before I go to the second one?
don't really think they're in a position to, we're kind of going over the health plan.
Well, the
our health-
question is, what
but
is the
you bring up good points for future agenda items, but I don't know that
So I
they're
think the question they
something
can
we can
ask,
discuss
and we
here.
can ask them, is if the trend that we're down in 5 years over, for us alone, the Board of Education, approaching 20% fewer enrollees, I don't know that you can presume that we're going to have another 20% in the next 5 years, but, you know, what does that tell us when we're considering the possibility of going to another plan?
Well, I mean, we know that a bulk of those are retirees that you were able to move off your self-funded plan and the fully insured programs. That's a big piece of it.
But aren't they replaced by new employees largely?
These were retirees that had been retired for years and had been,
Offered a new health plan offering.
So this is the OPEB?
yeah, pretty, there's a lot of,
Yeah.
the word retiree means so
Yeah.
much, but
Yeah.
they had, they'd been retired for a long time. So, so that's been a huge project and goal we have had since we were hired.
So what you've not said this, but what I'm hearing between the lines of what you're saying is we should not be terribly frightened of having an equal percentage drop going ahead for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Well, what I don't know is how many positions, what's happening with your, you know, the enrollment in the
Yes.
classroom and what you're doing with positions. I don't know that, but I know statewide, I see these similar decreases, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's the complexion of your workforce, and it changes all the time. So you could have, when individuals retire, for example, and leave the district, they might have a two-person coverage. If we hire a new teacher and they're single, now the only one person's coming on the plan and not two. So you might see a reduction in that situation. Same thing vice versa. It just changes all the time. It's like trying to predict a crystal ball. You know, it's just a complexion of the workforce and who needs coverage for how many people in their family, and it changes, you know, all the time. No, but I will comment that I think the shift in retiree is a fair amount of the number that you're seeing in the decline.
Yeah.
The 1 year alone, I think it was about 100 retirees moved to a fully insured plan.
Yep.
So when you take that out, the swing isn't quite as much over time.
And if you look at the last 2 plan years, for the 7/1/24 renewal, which was October 2023 enrollment, you were at 497 enrolled, and the prior year, you were at 500. So it's pretty flat just in the last year.
Because a lot of that change happens January 1.
So the follow-up to that is, I saw actual max cost per employee, but what's the mean, the median, and the mode of those numbers?
Well, you-
And a question for Lori is, would it be useful, I'm really not advocating, I'm just asking a question, would it be useful to survey those people who have not enrolled to learn why they didn't enroll? Could that be illuminative to your benefit, to the district's benefit?
I don't know, it's a good question, we have to think about that.
Okay.
And make sure it doesn't, you know, certainly violate any type of confidentiality or union agreements or.
I would look at that actual cost row per contract. Oh, that's not, oh my gosh, that's the total number. Do we have the actual total?
I thought
No, we don't.
I thought I saw here.
We should do that. Then we have to look at the.
Matthew, you mind if I
number
make
of
a comment
bodies
on your
and-
question?
Ay, ay, ay.
Pardon?
Mind if I make a comment on your
I
question?
would be welcome you to make a
Never
comment.
mind.
So one thing,
Oh,
I think it's fair to take into account that if we were to offer a much better, higher quality benefit package, then some of those people that are on their spouse's insurance might switch over to ours.
Yes, you
So
could have
tell me if
some
I'm correct on that.
You want to be careful with that, and that's what you all do it during union negotiations, and, you know, you compare yourselves to other school districts that you compare yourself to, and you look at the benefits that they're offering and the premium share, and you don't want to be the magnet plan where everyone that has dual working households come on the insurance, but you want to make sure you're competitive enough, but where there's common sense, when folks go home and compare, okay, whose insurance should we go on? You want to be competitive, but not have everybody join.
But there could be exposure, to answer your question. Yeah. There could be exposure of individuals coming back during open enrollment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, is that a negative or a positive?
Yeah.
Well, it's money, a lot of money.
It just means your budget will
They
go
have
up.
it, it's okay.
Yeah, from money that we have to spend, it's a negative, right?
Right.
Yes.
Good for
I mean,
employees.
Budget
From
more.
that perspective, yes, yes.
Yep, we'll have to budget
I
more.
have a final question.
Yeah, and then I think Mike is waiting. So,
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, thank you. So apologize for missing most of the meeting, and I will go back and watch this. So if what I'm asking about has been answered, then just tell me that, and that's fine. But in looking at decisions like this, the three things I'd like to know: is there a clear plan that's less expensive? Is it clear which one has better benefits? And have the staff unions, do they have equal voice in this decision? Those are my three questions.
We already answered that, Mike. Sorry.
So if you have, I'll get
Those are good questions, Mike.
Big picture, the Groton self-funded plan has run better than expected and
Over time.
would be a savings compared to fully insured or the partnership. Big picture, okay? The second one, what?
Second one, does one have clearly
Oh, better
better
benefits?
benefits? The state seems quite good.
Yeah, you gotta,
I think
pros and
the
cons.
Employees would like, may
Some.
like some of the
Yes,
plan provision, but may not like others. There will be impacts
yes. There's a-
which have to be analyzed and assessed.
are there big differences in the formularies?
There,
Because a lot of people are very concerned about that.
Yes, and that's what we do. When we change carriers, we check all the providers, and everybody relaxes because all the providers are on the networks. But behavioral health is usually where the issue is with providers. And if you, there's always like some chiropractor that 30 people go to, that's some issue. But the pharmacy, absolutely. We used to look at the top 100, top 50, then it was top 100, now we look at them all. And we give a report on how many of the prescriptions go to a higher tier, lower tier, or not on the formulary, and then we'll have, an equivalent available for therapeutic class. But that's where all the disruption is. We change insurance carriers for clients every month.
Yeah.
So for 90 days, until everybody has properly refilled their prescription and gotten their doctor to submit what they have to do, taking that action, it's an action. Each person in their family, a lot of noise.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
I've never seen a plan change where there was an impact.
There is not.
Either in
It's always
provider or
I've checked.
prescription formulary. There's always pluses and minuses, and to your question, like, the unions would have a voice. We would have to negotiate.
We would
And we have
tell
to
them.
share those impacts.
Yeah, we show them the disruption. There's nothing we can do about it except say, here it is.
Right.
And then do our best to communicate it to everybody.
But would they have an equal seat at the table in terms of, would be a big decision, and an upheaval, whether positive or negative, like have an early and active seat at the table. That's what I'd advocate for.
To negotiate.
Well, they've all been invited tonight, so that they're hearing this at the same time that we are.
But they're back here.
Can I ask a question?
I thought they just wanted to be able to be like, I'm not sure.
They're not actually at the table.
That would be a separate negotiation meeting, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because that we'd have to involve all of the unions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you'd have to have a negotiation with each individual unit, correct?
right. Yeah.
But even before
Could
that.
we have a single informational meeting first with everybody, and then
That's
have
what we're trying to do tonight, is to get the information.
March 3rd, you have to send out the letter if you're going to change carriers and give them notice, because the CEA is going to hire their rep and ask us 20 questions, we'll prepare for 100. So the notice has to go out March 3rd. That's my deadline for all my municipalities this year where we do RFPs.
March 3rd?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got to give the 30-day notice with the letter.
Yeah.
And I would.
Whatever it is, we
I
gotta
would
do.
just want to clarify, we would check the union contracts. It might be longer.
Sure.
Yeah. I think some of the contracts may require more notice.
Yeah, and the teachers will hire a consultant, and off we go.
And do you still help us if we go with the, oh, you do, okay.
And you probably covered this. My guess is
I want the change to be smoother than anyone else, because I don't want July 4th, people on the phone calling me.
We want to switch back.
We have more skin in the game than anyone.
You hear about it.
You probably covered this. My guess is the school system can change one way and the rest of the town can stick another, but I think we're probably would have a very open conversation throughout the town about what would be best as a whole or for one part versus the other. Is that planned? Oh, so if we haven't talked about that, then at some point, yeah, yeah. So I'd advocate for that.
Well, you're going to meet with the town in the next few weeks, aren't you?
Tuesday, we're doing the
Same
same.
presentation.
Yeah.
That's why that cover had the 2 dates on it.
Good.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to align my comments with, I think, open, transparent, engaging with all concerned parties as we move forward with this, the earlier the better. And, I think that there's a lot of pros and cons to consider, so I anticipate we'll be seeing each other a good bit,
Yeah.
or at least conversing somehow.
Yeah.
No, the more you share and explain and communicate, then people should feel comfortable.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of work put into this. We're proud of the program.
Yeah, and I'd say a dialogue even before negotiation, that's what an open one.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
All right, you guys are troopers. Oh, you had a point.
No,
Our biggest thing is we do have our consultant, and we would like to be able to run the plan.
Are you teachers?
Yes,
Yeah.
Who's the consultant?
Tom Loud.
Yeah.
So,
He's got me on speed
I
dial.
was gonna say, you're probably on speed dial.
Lynn knows well. Press
And we-
1, 2, or 3, you know?
Yeah.
He's probably a top 5.
He's probably a top five. He's a good guy, he's really a good guy.
fine.
Here's Andy from the other one.
I had questions, but I don't want to take like a super long time or anything. Are we allowed to ask them?
I just say come up to the microphone.
I got one. Well, we pay, like, if you put the first slide back up, that has the blue bar and then the big chop of like all the different costs. I pay our cost share based on the blue bar. I pay based on the fully insured rate. Like, so it's like millions of dollars higher than the expected costs thing.
No, the premium equivalents that Anthem provides that are called allocation rates, those equate to usually within 2% of expected costs, expected claims, admin fee, stop loss premium.
So it does include all the rest of the stuff, not just the expected claims?
Correct.
Because I pay the fully insured rate, so I,
You pay the fully insured equivalent.
Yeah,
The
right.
Premium equivalent. The allocation rate is the word Anthem uses. And
that's
so-
what all the,
Yes,
that's,
usually
those aren't the
expect-
same thing though, right? Like, that's all the, like, if I look in the other union contracts for the town, they pay the allocation rate, like, we don't.
Can I clarify? We changed that this year.
Oh, okay.
Everybody pays the allocation rate.
This year, we changed.
Thank
I
you,
just
Mike.
switched.
Yeah, we switched it this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You and I have actually talked about this
Yes,
before.
correct.
Because I was like, I'll pull the firefighters or
Yeah.
cops or whatever and be like, allocation.
Yeah.
Pay an expert, and she's like, yeah, that's a lot cheaper. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's what.
Yeah,
so it is
we
like
did that
this
to align, yes, exactly, so that we could give a better rate to the employees this year because the increase was anticipated to be higher than what we thought. And then it would also align with the town so that we were charging the same rate structure across all the employee groups. Yeah, so we did change that.
Yeah, totally. That's why I pointed out till previously that it was anomalous that we gave that,
Yeah.
you know.
Good they got you. Which union are you?
The IT guys and the maintenance guys and the custodians are.
And secretaries.
Secretary.
Secretaries, do not forget them. Do not take them off. And can I say, and you were talking about negotiations, it's easier for the unions to actually talk about this now outside of our regular bargaining time, because we have time to actually dedicate to it, and so it's much easier. So it's not something that we want to wait until next summer to negotiate. It would be something that we would prefer to be at the table and be working on this now. And then that's not something that we really need to dig in deeper in our actual negotiations. And, GEA has always been at that table to work with the board regarding insurance. So, just putting that out there.
So I kind of asked this before, but what's the value difference from the state plan to the plan that we have now? So to the employee, I mean, it seems like, what's the average out-of-pocket employee cost right now every year? And what would it be with the state plan? So is an employee going to see an annual savings on average of $3,000, $2,000, $1,000?
Yeah.
Because that seems like, from the union standpoint, if it's going to save employees money on one.
Have to look at that, and it's going to be all over the map,
Yeah.
because I've done this. The
Yeah.
people, you're funding their HSA,
Yeah. It's going to vary by group, and we'd have to go through all of that analysis to compare the rates, which we have some of that information, and we just haven't done the pluses and minuses yet, but we can see what those look like. But the other thing I would point out is the retirees are heavily impacted by that type of change. If you saw, there was a significant increase to a group of retirees to go to the state health plan, where they would see a significant increase in premium. So there are pluses and minuses even within making that move. Yeah, yeah. Mhm. And I would just qualify that the group of retirees we're talking about that are heavily impacted are those retirees who are either under 65 and not Medicare eligible, or they are pre-1987 and they couldn't get Medicare as a teacher. And they have to remain on a different plan. They can't go to the Medicare Advantage plan. Those individual retirees aren't heavily impacted. I think there's a little bit of savings for them, but
we assume the Medicare Advantage plans.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's something that we need to be thinking about, because it won't be a positive for everybody. Yeah.
I guess another one, I had written down, what would the biweekly paycheck deduction be, as far as how different would it be?
Yeah, that's how we have to do that out.
We can do the math, though. We can,
All right, because
There's
it's, like,
lots
a
of
three-year teacher contract, and something like they paid 22% or something like that,
Yeah, so they pay 22% of the,
whatever it is.
whatever the rate is, yeah.
So do we know what the partnership cost would be just for the Board of Ed? I saw it was combined, but do we have the price just for the board?
yep, that was the second one, that was right, it's in there.
All right. And I saw numbers for the town, but when we have some comparisons between the town and the board together on, it would cost them like $1 million more or something. I forget that number actually. But do we have a comparison, like if the board were to choose to go to the state plan and the town were just to choose to either stay self-insured or go to a competitive private plan? Do we have any comparisons like that?
No, it's going to require a decent amount of analysis. The town, being on its own, changes a lot for the town.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the big difference is the town has a rainy day fund when things get expensive. We don't. So, from our budgeting standpoint, it seems like that's a complication in getting additional resources during the year, additional funding during the year. It seems unlikely in the current climate. So what happens with all the money that's in the reserve? Does that make interest? Where does that go?
I mean, that would be a question for the town. They're holding the funds, so I don't know what the interest-bearing situation is. It's a good question, though.
We have $3 million there. Are we making, or something like that, are we making, $100,000 a year or something?
It's a good question.
Feel free to, go.
Yeah, I think that's it.
As you guys,
centralizing them. Where would you like questions to be sent to? Jay, Susan? That's what I'm thinking. If you could give them to us, and then I can work with Lynn to collect it all and send it over. Yeah.
Lori, but CC me, just so that I have it too as a backup in case, we get a lot of emails every day, like 100.
Just to recap, right now, the partnership is projecting 4%.
That's what I heard 3 weeks ago, yes.
But they're not going to commit to that until,
Hopefully end of March.
but then again, we don't know what
Oh, we're going to get a bunch of numbers in January and February.
and we don't know what Anthem's going to do either.
Anthem's going to do what you guys want to do. It's your money, your projection. We do work with Anthem to come up with that.
No, I'm good, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice to see you all.
Very good presentation, thanks. There are some questions, I guess. All right.
Always.
Decision, right? Everything can change like that.
Payroll is the biggest. Oh, I forgot to shut off.
Thank you, Lori.
That was a wonderful meeting, thank you.
Thanks.